Hello, thank you for tuning into my channel. It's assignment 7 of the Heartbeat Bargello Quilt Along. So if you want to see how to put borders on this quilt top, please stay tuned. I have my completed quilt top so far right here. We've done assignments 4, 5, and 6 where we did the 3 sections of the quilt, and I've all sewn that whole thing together. I'm going to lay it out on the floor in just a minute, but first let's take a look at everybody else's finished quilt tops. When it comes to borders for this quilt, I'm really excited about what I'm going to do for it because I'm going to treat it a little bit simpler than what's in the pattern. So if you look at your pattern, you'll see, I'm going to see if I can find the actual page. Okay. You'll see that it's a, the border is it has a stop border, and then it has the piano keys border on it, and to me it's very beautiful. I really like the way that I put this one together. Somebody asked about putting a plain border on the quilt, and after I did some measuring and thought about all of the additional steps I would have to take to make another border like this, I decided I think that's a great idea. So what I'm going to do for this border is use a plain border instead of worrying about the piano keys. I do have this leftover strip set, but if you're going to do the piano keys border, you may need to make another strip set before you even can get started. So for me, it's a great option to do a plain border. Whatever you decide, I'm sure it'll be beautiful. Please post it up on the Quilt Along Facebook group so that we can see what you came up with. Now, the difference between what I would normally do for a plain border and what I'm going to do for this one is that this time I'm going to miter the corners on the quilt, and so I want to take a minute and show you the difference in how that looks. So I'm going to get behind the camera and move it just a little bit because I have 2 examples of some quilts here. These are some older quilts. This one, I don't even have a YouTube video for it. It was probably one of my first quilts, and it has a plain border here, but it is, I guess like I don't even know what to call it, like a square border. So the seam is right here. Okay, so I put the horizontal border and then the vertical border, and it's joined here. So I did both sides one way and then both sides the other way, and so you get it's a square corner. It's still beautiful, of course. It's a great option, but let me show you what we're going to do for this one. This is my my log cabin quilt, and I made a video about this this border. Ours is not going to have the 2 fabrics. It's just going to have one. But the difference is that the seam here is at a 45-degree angle. So you make both of these pieces a little bit longer, and then you join them here in the middle. So this is what we're going to do for, or this is what I'm going to do for my Bargello quilt. So let's go over these steps to get started. I've already measured my quilt top so far, and it's going to be 84 1/4 by 75. So my next step is going to be to go ahead and cut my border strips, and I have 2 cut already. These are length of fabric, and I'm cutting them at 4 inches. You can cut them at whatever length you want. I just took the number of strips that I was going to need, which is 9, and then looked at the amount of fabric I had left. So I'm just going to use what I have to make this border. When you measure it, you're going to need to give yourself extra to miter the corners. So I would add, like I added 10 inches because my strips are 4 inches, and so you need enough for to cover both sides of the border. So the side plus an additional length of the border at the top and at the bottom. So that's how I got the 9 strips. I'm just using my shape cut ruler to cut these, and you'll see more clearly. I'm gonna put them on top of the, or put them with the quilt, so you can see exactly how what I mean by adding that extra. So this is 1 and 2. I'm just cutting at every 4 inches. And 3, and I should be able to get 1 more out of this one, and then I'll have another piece. So I'll finish cutting my strips, and then we'll go over the next step. At this point, I'm going to start joining the pieces together to form my border sides. I have already drawn a line. Let's see if we can see it. On the diagonal here, and I've pinned this in place because they're so big. I'm actually going to do these one at a time because since I have an odd number of strips, I know that I'm going to have to cut a little bit of this and piece it to other parts. So I've drawn the lines and pinned. This is for the short side. So even though I have joined 3 pieces together, I know I'm going to cut off a pretty good bit of this last part. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and press it, and I'll show it to you on the quilt. So you can see the border at the top of the quilt. This is on the short side, and right here we have about a 4 to 5 inch overhang, and this includes the selvage. So I have the selvage and then about 4 inches. I'm going to scoot it over a little bit more just to be sure, and you want to make sure that on each side you have about that same amount of overlap. So as I go over to the right side, I'm going to just kind of approximate that, and then I'm just going to cut it with my scissors so that this piece can go onto another part. So I'm going to continue this all the way around, doing all 4 sides, making sure that I have that overhang on each side. And I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. I laid out all of my border strips, and you can see that they are, I just have them kind of overlap at the edge, so that to make sure that I have enough of the width of the border hanging off on both parts of that corner. Now I'm going to take it and sew probably 1 side at a time, or maybe 2 sides, and I'm going to stop at the 1/4 inch from the edge. So let me see if I can show you on this little section. I'm going to put a pin here at the about a 1/4 inch from the edge, and when I stitch, I'm going to stop here a 1/4 inch from the end of the fabric on both sides. So here on this end, and then at the other end. And then I'll do the same thing for this side, stitching all the way down and stopping a 1/4 inch from the edge. I have all 4 sides of the border stitched on, and here you can see that there is an extra corner that's about a 1/4 inch. This one's actually a little more than a 1/4 inch. Hopefully it'll work itself out. It should be fine. So now we're going to go ahead and figure out how to miter this corner. What you'll need is a ruler with a 45-degree line. So here's the 45-degree line on this ruler. And then you'll need a marking pencil. I'm just using this white marker because my fabric is dark. What you need to do now, what I'm doing is turning the fabric so that, or folding it kind of right sides together so that the border matches up exactly. So, let's see if I can do it. And I'll be checking the camera to make sure I got it right. So, okay. Yeah. And so here is a 45-degree angle. I'm going to fold the top of this back because we're going to need the, we want to get right at this stitch point here. This is where we're going to start stitching out. And we're going to stitch a 45-degree line. In order to see where we're going to do the stitching, I'm actually putting the 45-degree line on the stitch right here. Trying to match it up just so. Okay, and then I'm going to use my pencil to draw a line. Make sure you can see that. To draw a line right there where it meets the fabric. So this is going to be our 45-degree line. This is going to be the stitch line. So I'm going to grab some pins and pin around that line, not directly on it, but just around it to kind of hold this fabric in place. And then I'm going to stitch on that line, and hopefully our mitered corner will have a perfect diagonal to frame out the quilt. So let me do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm ready to open up the corner and make sure that it looks good. I think it's pretty good so far. The only thing that I have left to do now is I'm going to take my rotary cutter and a ruler and trim the excess off. I'm going to press it open, and I think I'm going to go ahead and make my binding. Then I'll show you the entire quilt top and the binding. I'm really excited that this is all finished. Here is the completed quilt top. You can see the stop border, the 3.5-inch border all around it. It does have mitered corners, and I like that because I think that it's going to frame the quilt nicely. There are some areas where it's not perfectly straight. If I zoom in, maybe you can see some ridges right there that won't exactly press out. There's some on the other side too. But what I'm hoping to do is that I'll be able to quilt those out, and it won't be so obvious that the quilt wasn't 100% square. I want to take just a minute and show you how much scraps I had left over from this project. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. If you'll remember, when we started this project, before we started with the strip sets together, I had all of my strip units in like 5 shoe boxes. Now, thankfully, we're down to just 1 shoe box, and I get to show you what's left of the fabric. First, I guess let me talk about the borders. When it comes to the borders, of course, you can do whatever you want. The pattern does have one design. What I chose to do with this one is, you know, it's just my choice. You, of course, can do whatever you like. As soon as you have your border done, please post a picture to the Heartbeat Bargello Facebook group so that we can see what you've come up with. I'm sure that whatever you did will be extraordinary. One person already finished their quilt, and I love what she did with the border. She did a little teeny tiny border of the strip set, and I think it turned out really pretty. I actually had about this much leftover strip set. It was about 25 inches. And what I've done with that is I put it in the binding. I did have to add a little bit more solid fabric, so I added a little bit more of my fabric one, which is a really dark purple. And then the rest of this is strip units that I just stitched end to end, and then I pressed it in half. I cut the strips for my binding at 2.5 inches. And I like to do my binding as soon as I'm done with the quilt top, so that right after I get it quilted, it'll be ready to go and I can just bind it. Now for the fabric that I have left over, I actually have a little bit of every single fabric. This is what's left of fabric 4. And I think I have about the same amount left of all of the other fabrics. So I'm just going to kind of fan them out. They're in order from 14 to 1 or 2. But you can see them all. I think this is great. It looks like maybe, let's see, about 11 to 12 inches of fabric left. And so I think this is wonderful because I have another project that I'm working on that I can just go ahead and translate some of these straight to that new project. So I'm really happy to have the quilt top done. I am not going to try to quilt it right away because I haven't purchased any backing fabric yet. So I'm going to have a couple other projects in line ahead of it and a few other things. Hopefully I'll get to it, quilting it by the end of this year. If not, I think it'll be okay. Please make sure that you leave your pictures on the Facebook group. Stay tuned to the end of this video. There were only 2 as of today. 2 people who had done section 3. I'll go back and verify and make sure. But I will do a drawing for this one. The prize is a set of 2.5-inch squares that I found out Tuesday morning. So if you have any questions about this quilt top, please leave them below in the comments. Check out the rest of the videos in the series. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!